On a bright and strange planet called Zoltar, the sky was filled with two suns. The air was thick with colorful plants that seemed to dance in the gentle breeze. Many different alien species lived here, each with their own customs and ways of life. But today, something unusual was about to happen that would change everything. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed across the landscape. It came from the sky. The aliens looked up, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. A spaceship, unlike anything they had ever seen, was descending. It had a shiny silver surface that reflected the bright suns, making it look like a shooting star. As the ship landed with a soft thud, the ground trembled slightly. The aliens gathered, whispering and pointing at the strange machine. The hatch of the spaceship opened slowly, and a ramp extended to the ground. The aliens held their breath, wondering who or what would come out. They had heard tales of other worlds and the creatures that lived there, but nothing could prepare them for what they were about to see. Out stepped a single figure. It was a human, a Deathworlder. He stood tall with broad shoulders and a confident stance. His skin was a warm shade of tan, and his hair was dark and wild, blowing slightly in the breeze. He wore strange clothes that looked tough and durable, as if he had been through many battles. The aliens were both fascinated and terrified. They had never seen a creature like him before. As the Deathworlder looked around, he noticed the many eyes staring at him. He raised a hand in greeting, smiling widely. The aliens, unsure of how to respond, stepped back, their hearts racing. Some of them thought he might be a warrior, ready to conquer their world. The Deathworlder took a few steps forward, trying to make peace. He made gestures, waving his arms and pointing to himself. "I come in peace," he said, his voice deep and strong. But the aliens did not understand his words. They only saw a strange creature that could be dangerous. A small alien with bright blue skin and 3 eyes stepped forward. This alien was brave, and it wanted to learn more. It chirped a series of sounds, trying to communicate. The Deathworlder listened, nodding his head. He knew that communication could be tricky, especially with different species. Suddenly, the alien made a strange movement, resembling a dance. The Deathworlder chuckled, thinking it was a friendly gesture. In response, he attempted to mimic the dance, swinging his arms and hopping around. The aliens looked at each other in confusion, unsure of what to make of this strange performance. Laughter erupted among the onlookers, breaking the tension. However, not all aliens were amused. The larger creature, covered in dark scales, growled and moved closer. It saw the humans dance as a challenge. The Deathworlder noticed the creature's angry expression and stopped dancing. He quickly raised his hands, showing that he meant no harm. The scene was a mix of confusion, fear, and laughter. The Deathworlder stood in the center, feeling both out of place and excited. He had traveled far and faced many challenges, but this was different. This planet was alive with color, sound, and mystery. He knew he needed to find a way to connect with these aliens if he wanted to survive. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the planet, the Deathworlder took a deep breath. He realized that this strange new world held endless possibilities. He was ready for whatever came next. Would the aliens accept him, or would they see him as a threat? Only time would tell. But one thing was clear. His adventure had just begun. The Deathworlder stood in the middle of the strange gathering, surrounded by curious and fearful aliens. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the horizon in shades of orange and purple. He could feel the weight of their gazes on him, a mix of wonder and caution. The air was thick with anticipation, and he knew he had to make a better first impression. With a determined smile, he took a step forward. "Hello, I'm human," he said clearly, hoping the aliens would understand. They tilted their heads, trying to comprehend the sound of his voice. The small blue alien from earlier looked especially curious. It chirped excitedly and hopped closer, its 3 eyes sparkling with interest. The Deathworlder decided to try a different approach. He pointed to himself and said, "I am, friend." He spread his arms wide to show he meant no harm. The blue alien mimicked him, raising its tiny arms and making a series of happy sounds. Other aliens watched with a mix of confusion and amusement. Encouraged by this, the Death Worlder reached into a small pouch on his belt and pulled out a bright green fruit. It was a snack he always carried with him from Earth. He held it up, waving it slightly. "Food. Good," he declared. The aliens stared at the fruit, their eyes wide. The larger, scaled alien growled softly, unsure of this new offering. The blue alien, however, was bold. It stepped forward and reached out to grab the fruit. The Death Worlder gently placed it in the alien's hand, smiling. The blue alien sniffed the fruit and then took a tiny bite. Its eyes widened in surprise. It let out a joyful sound and began to dance in circles, sharing the fruit with others nearby. The atmosphere shifted. Laughter echoed as the blue alien shared the snack, and soon, other aliens began to approach the Death Worlder. They were still cautious, but curiosity was taking over. The Death Worlder saw this as a sign of hope. He offered more fruit, and they accepted it, each alien taking turns to taste the strange treat. As the aliens munched happily, the Death Worlder seized the moment. He pointed to the sky and made a motion as if flying. "Spaceship," he exclaimed, hoping to share his story. The blue alien tilted its head, then made a gesture as if imitating a spaceship landing. Other aliens joined in, mimicking the motion, and giggles spread through the crowd. But not everyone was thrilled. The larger alien, still watching from the edge, stepped forward, its expression serious. It growled again, a deep sound that sent a ripple of fear through the others. The Death Worlder noticed the shift in mood and held up his hands, trying to calm everyone down. "I am not here to fight," he shouted. "I want to be friends." He took a step back, showing he meant no harm. The crowd went quiet, all eyes on the Death Worlder and the large alien. After a moment that felt like an eternity, the larger alien let out a huff and relaxed its posture. It approached slowly, eyeing the Death Worlder closely. The Death Worlder stood still, hoping he was not about to make a mistake. Finally, the larger alien extended a clawed hand. The Death Worlder took a deep breath and reached out, shaking hands with the creature. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. The other aliens erupted in cheers, their fears slowly melting away. With this simple handshake, a bridge was built. The Death Worlder smiled, knowing that they had taken their first step toward understanding each other. This moment of connection would mark the beginning of a new friendship, one that held the promise of exciting adventures ahead. The days passed quickly on the vibrant planet of Zoltar. The Death Worlder had made friends with the blue alien and others. They laughed together, shared food, and learned about each other's worlds. But the larger alien, whom they called Grak, still watched carefully, unsure of this human's strength and purpose. One sunny morning, the aliens gathered in a colorful open area, surrounded by tall, swaying plants. The blue alien hopped excitedly, drawing everyone's attention. "Challenge," it chirped, bouncing up and down. The crowd murmured, intrigued. The Death Worlder tilted his head. "Challenge?" he asked, curious. The blue alien nodded enthusiastically and began to gesture wildly. It wanted to see how strong and clever the Death Worlder really was. The larger aliens exchanged glances, their expressions serious. This was a test, a way to prove his worth. Grak stepped forward, its scales glinting in the sunlight. "You must compete," it rumbled, its voice deep and commanding. "Show us your strength and skill." The crowd buzzed with excitement. The Death Worlder felt a mix of nervousness and thrill. He had faced many challenges before, but this was different. This was about proving himself to new friends. The first challenge was a strength test. The aliens led the Death Worlder to a large boulder, round and heavy. Grak grinned, confident that the human would fail. "Lift it," it demanded, stepping back to watch. The Death Worlder approached the boulder, eyeing it carefully. He took a deep breath, remembering the hard work he had done back on Earth. With a grunt of effort, he bent down, gripped the boulder, and lifted it high above his head. Gasps filled the air. The aliens stared in disbelief. Grak's mouth fell open, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Impressive. The blue alien shouted, dancing around in joy. The Diff-Worlder smiled, feeling the surge of pride. He had passed the first challenge. Next came a test of speed. The aliens set up a race through a winding path filled with strange plants and obstacles. The Death-Worlder looked at the other competitors, large and fast aliens, each confident in their abilities. The blue alien gave him a thumbs up, encouraging him to give it his all. When the race started, the Death-Worlder sprinted with all his might. He dodged tall plants and jumped over fallen logs. The aliens watched in awe as he moved quickly and skillfully. He could feel the adrenaline rushing through him. In the final stretch, he saw Grak ahead, pushing forward with great speed. The Death-Worlder focused, pushing himself harder. Just as he reached the finish line, he lunged forward, crossing it with a triumphant shout. The crowd went wild, cheering for their new hero. After the race, the final challenge was one of cleverness. The aliens presented a puzzle made of colorful stones. They wanted to see if the Death-Worlder could solve it. He studied the stones, recalling the puzzles he had encountered on Earth. With a smile, he began to move the stones around. The aliens leaned closer, their eyes wide with anticipation. After a few moments of deep thinking, he placed the final stone in place, completing the puzzle. Cheers erupted once more. The Death-Worlder had succeeded in all 3 challenges. Grak stepped forward, a proud look in its eyes. "You are strong and clever," it said. "You have proven yourself." The Death-Worlder felt a warm sense of belonging. This day marked a turning point. He was no longer just a stranger. He was now a friend, accepted and respected by the aliens of Zoltar. With the challenges behind him, the Death-Worlder felt a sense of belonging grow within him. The aliens of Zoltar had accepted him, and he was no longer just an outsider. Each day brought new experiences and laughter, but the real treasure was the friendships he was forming. One sunny afternoon, the Death-Worlder sat with the blue alien and a few others beneath a giant tree with shimmering leaves. The blue alien's name was Zik, and it was always full of energy. Zik loved to share stories and asked the Death-Worlder about life on Earth. "What is your home like?" Zik chirped, its 3 eyes sparkling with curiosity. The Death-Worlder smiled, thinking back to the tall buildings and busy streets. "It's very different," he replied. "There are many people, and we live in big cities. We have parks and forests too, but they can be dangerous." Zik tilted its head, intrigued. "Dangerous? Like how?" The Death-Worlder laughed lightly, remembering the many challenges he had faced back on his home planet. "We have wild animals and storms that can be very strong, but we learn to survive." As they talked, Grak approached, listening quietly. It was impressed by how the Death-Worlder spoke about his home. "On Zoltar, we have dangers too," Grak said, stepping forward. "But we have learned to work together." The Death-Worlder nodded, realizing that despite their differences, they shared a common goal: survival and friendship. "We can learn from each other," he said, feeling excited about their growing bond. "Let's teach each other our skills." Zik jumped up in excitement. "Yes, let's share. You teach us human games, and we can show you our Zoltar games." The Death-Worlder agreed, eager to learn more about his new friends and their culture. The next day, they gathered again, this time for fun. The Death-Worlder introduced them to some classic Earth games, like tag and hide and seek. The aliens watched with wide eyes, fascinated by the speed and laughter that filled the air. At first, the aliens struggled to keep up. Zik tripped over its own feet, while Grak was too big to hide behind trees. But soon, they found their rhythm. They adapted the games, making them unique to Zoltar. The Death-Worlder laughed, enjoying the playful spirit that brought everyone closer together. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in pinks and purples, the group sat together, panting and smiling. "That was so much fun," Zik exclaimed, its eyes twinkling with joy. Grak, usually so serious, let out a deep chuckle. "I did not expect to enjoy such games," it admitted. The Deathworlder felt a warm glow of happiness. This was what friendship felt like, sharing joy and laughter. They began to share their stories, tales of adventure, and moments of bravery. Each story added another layer to their bond. That night, as they sat under the stars, the Deathworlder looked around at his friends. He saw Zik still buzzing with excitement, Grak with a relaxed smile, and other aliens who were now comfortable around him. They had come together, creating a family of sorts, united by their differences. From that moment on, their friendship only grew stronger. They learned from each other, celebrated their unique cultures, and discovered the beauty in their differences. The Deathworlder knew this was just the beginning of many adventures ahead. Together, they would face whatever challenges the universe threw their way, ready to fight for their newfound family. The peaceful days on Zoltar had made the Deathworlder feel at home. He laughed with his friends, shared stories, and enjoyed the beauty of the planet. But one clear night, as they sat together under the stars, the joy was suddenly replaced by a feeling of unease. Grak, who had been keeping watch, stood up abruptly. "Something is coming," it said, its voice low and serious. The Deathworlder felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked at Zik, whose 3 eyes were wide with fear. "What do you mean?" the Deathworlder asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Before Grak could answer, a loud noise echoed in the distance. It sounded like thunder, but it was different, deeper, and more menacing. The ground trembled beneath their feet. "We need to prepare," Grak said urgently. "A hostile alien race is approaching. They want to take our resources and conquer our land." The Deathworlder's heart raced. He had heard stories of such threats, but he never thought he would face one. "What can we do?" he asked, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Grak nodded, its eyes fierce. "We must unite. If we work together, we can protect Zoltar." The Deathworlder felt a surge of determination. He had faced danger before, and he would not let his new friends down. The group quickly gathered the other aliens. Panic spread among them as they realized the danger that loomed. The Deathworlder stepped forward, raising his hands to calm everyone. "Listen, we can win if we work as a team. I have fought battles before. We will prepare for whatever comes." Zik chirped, "What do we do?" The Deathworlder took a deep breath and began to form a plan. "First, we need to gather supplies, food, weapons, and anything we can use to defend ourselves. We need to know our strengths and weaknesses." As they worked through the night, the Deathworlder felt a sense of purpose. He directed the aliens, showing them how to set traps and build barriers. They gathered stones, sticks, and anything they could find. Grak used its strength to move heavy objects, while Zik organized everyone into teams, each with a specific task. As dawn broke, the tension in the air thickened. The loud noise grew closer, and shadows began to loom on the horizon. The Deathworlder stood at the front, heart pounding. He could see the enemy ships, dark and menacing, gliding through the sky. "They're here," he shouted, rallying his friends. The aliens took their positions, hearts racing but ready. The Deathworlder stood beside Grak, feeling the power of their bond. Together, they would face this threat head-on. As the enemy ships descended, beams of light shot down, illuminating the area. The Deathworlder felt a rush of adrenaline. Suddenly, the ground shook violently as the enemy landed. Strange creatures with sharp teeth and glowing eyes poured out of the ships. They looked fierce and ready to attack. The Deathworlder raised his voice. "Hold the line. Remember our plan." The aliens stood firm, ready to defend their home. The Deathworlder grabbed a makeshift weapon, a sturdy stick, and prepared to fight. Zik, filled with courage, grabbed a small stone and stood beside him. Grak growled, a deep sound that shook the ground, ready to protect its friends. As the battle began, chaos erupted. The Death Worlder fought with everything he had, dodging and striking. He could hear the sounds of battle, the shouts of his friends, and the growls of the enemies. Together, they fought, united against the common threat. In that moment, the Death Worlder knew they would either win or lose together, and he was determined to protect his new family at all costs. The battle began with chaos erupting all around. The Death Worlder stood tall among his friends, his heart pounding as the enemy creatures charged forward. They were a dark mass, fierce and menacing, with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. But the Death Worlder felt a fire inside him. He would not let his new family down. "Stay together," he shouted, raising his makeshift weapon high. Zik stood beside him, small but brave. It picked up a handful of stones, ready to throw them at the attackers. Grak growled loudly, its powerful presence providing strength to the other aliens. The Death Worlder felt a surge of confidence. They would fight as one. As the enemy rushed forward, the Death Worlder swung his stick, striking the first attacker that came too close. It stumbled back, surprised by the human strength. "We can do this," he called out, hoping to encourage his friends. Zik threw a stone, hitting another enemy square in the chest. The creature roared in anger, turning its attention to the blue alien. The Death Worlder glanced at Zik, ready to help. "Keep moving," he shouted. Together, they dodged the enemies, working as a team. Zik's speed and the Death Worlder's strength created a perfect balance. They moved swiftly, making sure to protect each other. Grak was in the thick of the fight, its powerful claws striking down enemies left and right. The larger alien was a force to be reckoned with, and the Death Worlder felt proud to fight alongside it. "Grak, to your left," he warned, pointing as another enemy approached. Grak turned just in time, using its strength to swat the creature away. The air was filled with the sounds of battle, cries of anger, shouts of determination, and the heavy thud of bodies hitting the ground. The Death Worlder noticed that some of the other aliens were hesitating, fear in their eyes. "Don't give up," he yelled. "We fight for our home and each other." Inspired by his words, the aliens rallied. They formed a line, each using their unique skills to push back the attackers. Zik guarded in and out, throwing stones and distracting enemies, while other aliens set traps that caught the creatures off guard. The Death Worlder felt the energy shift. They were fighting as one, a united front against the dark threat. Suddenly, a loud roar came from behind the Death Worlder. He turned to see a massive enemy charging straight at him. Panic flashed through his mind, but he quickly steeled himself. "I won't back down," he thought. As the creature lunged, he sidestepped and swung his stick with all his strength. The blow connected, and the creature stumbled, giving the Death Worlder a moment to breathe. But just as he felt relief, he saw Zik in trouble. An enemy had grabbed the small alien, lifting it off the ground. "Zik," the Death Worlder shouted, rushing forward without thinking. He swung his stick again, aiming for the creature's arm. The blow landed, and it dropped Zik, who landed safely on the ground. Zik shook off the shock and quickly got back into the fight. "Thanks," it chirped, rejoining the battle with renewed determination. The Death Worlder felt a rush of pride. They were fighting for each other, and that made them strong. As the fight continued, the aliens pushed forward, gaining ground against the enemy. The Death Worlder noticed Grak leading a charge, rallying the others. "Let's push them back," Grak roared, its voice echoing with power. The Death Worlder joined the charge, feeling a bond like never before. Together, they fought bravely, side by side, showing the enemy that they would not back down. With each enemy they defeated, their confidence grew. The Death Worlder realized that this was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for friendship, trust, and a new home. And together, they would win. The battle raged on, fierce and chaotic. The Death Worlder felt every ounce of energy rushing through him as he fought alongside his friends. They were a team now, united against a common enemy. Each swing of his stick, each shout of encouragement, filled him with a sense of purpose. He knew they had to win, not just for themselves, but for their home on Zoltar. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the heat intensified, mixing with the sweat and adrenaline that coursed through the fighters. The sounds of the battle echoed all around, alien cries of anger, the heavy thud of feet against the ground, and the clashing of makeshift weapons. The Death Worlder's heart raced, and he scanned the area for his friends, determined to keep them safe. Grak was a whirlwind of power, its claws striking down enemy after enemy. The larger alien had become a true warrior, its growls of determination inspiring the others. Zik darted around, throwing stones and using its agility to confuse the enemies. "Keep going," the Death Worlder shouted, pushing himself to keep up with the pace. Suddenly, he spotted a group of enemies trying to flank them from the left. They were sneaking through the thick plants, ready to attack. "Grak!" he yelled, pointing urgently. Grak turned just in time to see the incoming threat. With a mighty roar, it charged forward, using its strength to block their path. The Death Worlder felt a mix of fear and pride. They had come so far, and they were fighting for each other. As Grak pushed back the enemy, the Death Worlder jumped into the fray, swinging his stick with all his might. He fought with everything he had, knowing that their victory depended on their unity and courage. But the enemy kept coming. Despite their brave efforts, the Death Worlder could see that some of his friends were growing tired. "Don't give up," he called out. "We are stronger together." His words echoed in the chaos, and he saw Zik nod, determination shining in its eyes. Then, in a sudden move, one of the enemy creatures lunged at the Death Worlder. He barely dodged, feeling the rush of air as it missed him. In that moment, he saw Zik in danger again, caught by another enemy. "No," he shouted, fear gripping his heart. Without thinking, he rushed forward, using all his strength to push the enemy away. With a loud crash, the enemy fell, freeing Zik. "Thank you," Zik gasped, and together they regrouped. The Death Worlder felt a fire inside him. They would not lose. They had to keep fighting. As the battle continued, they pushed deeper into enemy lines. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The enemy creatures, once fierce and confident, started to falter. Their numbers began to dwindle, and the Death Worlder could feel hope rising among his friends. "We can do this," he shouted. "Let's finish this together." With one final push, the combined strength of Grak, Zik, and the other aliens surged forward. They fought with everything they had left, focusing on the enemy leader, a massive creature that commanded the others with a terrifying presence. It was time to end this once and for all. The Death Worlder, filled with determination, led the charge toward the leader. He swung his stick with all his might, and Grak followed close behind. The creature turned, eyes wide with surprise. With one final blow, the Death Worlder struck true. The enemy leader fell, crashing to the ground. A cheer erupted from the group. The remaining enemies, seeing their leader defeated, turned and fled in panic. The Death Worlder and his friends stood tall, breathing heavily but victorious. They had won. As they caught their breath, the Death Worlder looked at his friends, feeling overwhelming gratitude. They had fought together, and through their courage, they had protected their home. This victory was hard-won, and he knew it would bond them forever. The sun began to set, casting a golden light over Zoltar. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. And in that moment, they celebrated not just their victory, but their friendship, a bond that would last through any challenge they might face in the future. The battle was over, but the fight had left its mark. The Death Worlder stood among his friends, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle on his shoulders. They had won, but not without cost. Some of the aliens were injured, their bodies showing signs of the fierce conflict. The Death Worlder looked around at the faces of his friends, each one bearing the signs of the struggle they had faced together. "Let's gather everyone," he said, his voice steady. "We need to help those who are hurt." Zik nodded, its eyes wide with concern. Grak stepped forward, its usual strength softened by a touch of worry. "I can find more herbs and supplies," it said. The Death Worlder felt grateful for his friend's spirit. Together, they would heal. They moved quickly, checking on each other. The Death Worlder first approached Zik, who had a small cut on its arm. "It's just a scratch," Zik said bravely, trying to smile. But the Death Worlder knew it needed attention. He found some leaves nearby, carefully crushing them to create a healing paste. "This will help," he said, gently applying it to Zik's wound. Zik winced, but soon relaxed. "Thank you," it whispered, appreciating the care. Next, they turned to Grak. The larger alien had a deep bruise on its side, a reminder of a close encounter with an enemy. "I can handle it," Grak said, trying to wave them off. But the Death Worlder shook his head. "You helped us fight. Now let us help you." With Grak's permission, he used the healing paste on the bruise, gently pressing to ease the pain. As they worked together, the Death Worlder felt a sense of peace. Each act of kindness brought them closer, healing not just their wounds but their spirits. The weight of battle slowly lifted as they shared stories of bravery and laughter, reminding one another of the strength they found in unity. After tending to the injuries, they gathered around a small fire, the warmth comforting against the cool night air. The Death Worlder looked at the flickering flames, and then at his friends. "We faced a great threat today," he began, his voice filled with emotion. "But we also showed that we are stronger together. No matter what happens, we will always have each other's backs." Zik nodded, its three eyes shining. "Yes, together, we are unstoppable," Grak added with a deep growl, its confidence returning. The Death Worlder felt his heart swell with pride. They had fought hard, and now they were healing together. As the night wore on, they shared stories of their homes, their cultures, and their dreams for the future. Zik spoke of the beautiful lakes on Zoltar, while Grak shared tales of ancient warriors who once defended their land. The Death Worlder told them about Earth, his home planet, and how he had found a family in this strange world. As laughter and stories filled the air, the Death Worlder noticed something magical happening. The wounds, both physical and emotional, began to fade as they connected on a deeper level. They were no longer just allies in battle. They were friends and family. The stars twinkled above them, a reminder of the universe's beauty. The Death Worlder felt a warmth in his heart, knowing that no matter where he was, he had found a place to belong. As he looked around at his friends, he understood that healing was not just about fixing wounds. It was about sharing love, support, and laughter. And in that moment, surrounded by his new family, he knew they could face anything together. The future held many challenges, but they would meet them head-on, united and stronger than ever. Together, they would heal, grow, and continue to write their story on the vibrant canvas of Zoltar. Days turned into weeks on Zoltar after the fierce battle, and life began to settle into a new rhythm. The Death Worlder, now a cherished member of the alien community, felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. The scars of battle had faded, but the bonds they formed during those dark times were stronger than ever. The vibrant planet continued to amaze him. Each day, he explored its wonders with his friends. Zik took him to the sparkling lakes that shimmered under the sun, while Grak showed him the lush forests filled with strange plants and animals. Together, they discovered hidden waterfalls, climbed tall cliffs, and even danced under the stars, celebrating their victories and friendships. But one morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, the Death Worlder felt a tug in his heart. He realized that while Zoltar was now his home, he had to share the stories of his journey with others. "I need to tell them about us," he said to Zik and Grak as they sat around a fire, enjoying breakfast. Zik tilted its head curiously. "Tell who?" it asked, its three eyes sparkling with interest. "The humans on Earth," the Death Worlder explained. "I want to show them what we've built together. I want them to know that different beings can unite, fight for one another, and create something beautiful." Grak nodded in agreement. "Your story is important. It can inspire others. But how will you do it?" The Death Worlder thought for a moment. "I can send messages. I can use technology to share our journey with the people back home. But I need your help to show them what Zoltar is truly like." Zik jumped with excitement. "I can help. We can record our adventures." Grak let out a deep growl of approval, its eyes filled with enthusiasm. Together, they began planning how to document their life on Zoltar. They gathered materials from the land, colorful leaves, stones, and even flowers, to create a unique way to tell their story. The Death Worlder set up a small recording device he had brought from Earth, and together, they began capturing their daily lives, showcasing the beauty of their friendship and the wonders of their world. Each day, they created videos filled with laughter, adventure, and the lessons they learned along the way. The Death Worlder shared stories of the battle they fought, emphasizing the strength of their unity. "We showed that even the fiercest enemies can become the best of friends," he said in one of the recordings. "Together, we can overcome any challenge." As they worked on their project, the Death Worlder felt a sense of purpose. He was sharing not just his story, but the story of a community that had come together in the face of adversity. They wanted to inspire others to embrace differences and work together, no matter where they came from. After weeks of hard work, they finished their first video. The Death Worlder sat down with Zik and Grak, excitement bubbling in his chest. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice trembling with anticipation. Together, they pressed the button to send their video to Earth. As it uploaded, the Death Worlder felt a wave of hope wash over him. This was not just a new chapter for him, but for all of them. They had created something special, a bridge between two worlds. In that moment, he knew their friendship would continue to grow, shaping the future in ways they had yet to discover. The Death Worlder smiled, looking at his friends. "This is just the beginning," he said, his heart full of optimism. They were ready to face whatever came next, together as a family. And in sharing their story, they hope to inspire others to join them on this incredible journey of unity and love.
Like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Your support means the world to me and helps me keep creating amazing content for you.